Very good afternoon. Can you hear me? Somebody need to confirm if you can hear me clearly. Sumit, you can hear me? I hope so can others also. All right, so this session is about the connected tissue of histology, for which you're going to see the slides this week. And in this, we already had one lecture on connected tissue where it was part of the general anatomy. And today we are going to do the histology part, focusing entirely on the part of histology where what we are going to see under the microscope on the slides which will be given to you. All right, so as you have been told multiple number of times, the the connected tissue will be made up of few things which are going to comprise of Yash Mittal, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Yes, I can hear you, sir.
You can hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
You can see me too?
Yes, sir.
All right. So where are you right now?
Sir, I am in the hostel.
Hostel, okay. So you still have 2 more days to go for your upper limb exam.
No, sir. Tomorrow is the lower limb exam. Yes.
Tomorrow is a lower limb exam,
Yes, sir.
stage exam.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm talking about the. So are you prepared for the exam?
Um, um, Not fully, sir, but yes, I am preparing, sir.
So there's still a lot of time till tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So this being your first exam, there'll be little new things which might be happening, but it's like any normal exam for which you've studied in last 2 months. So let's hope all will be well. It will be from the same topics which have been taught, and you have
Yes.
dissected also, so you have a better idea about upper limb now. Plus general
Thank
anatomy,
you.
which is also right. So let's come to the topic of now, because the topic is connective tissue of histology. Now, the outcomes, which we call as learning outcomes of this session, are that you should be able to, at the end of this lecture, which we're going to finish at by 6 o'clock, maybe 6:05, that you should be able to describe and identify various types of connective tissues with their functional correlation. And number 2 is that you should be able to describe the ultrastructure of the connective tissue of various types, which you will be discussing, you will be seeing and we will be discussing today. Right. So the connective tissue, as we know about connective tissue, is present almost everywhere. And it is called connective tissue, the name, because it is connecting various things. I think the best possible example of connective tissue connecting things is that we must have seen the ligaments, the fascia, and the deep fascia, superficial fascia you are seeing these days. Plus, if you've seen that below the epithelium, we have a thing called basement membrane, which makes the cells stick to the underlying surfaces. So that is where also you find the, like in this picture also, the one dark, the reddish layer is the layer which is the basement membrane, and you can see this epithelium on the surface. And all this area below that, it is the connective tissue, one form which we call as the loose connective tissue, and this one is another form of a connective tissue component, that is the collagen fibers. The collagen fibers which are compactly arranged over here, connecting the underlying connective tissue and the epithelial cells. So these connective tissue which you're going to find is going to be found everywhere in the body, wherever we have around, especially around the blood vessels, around the nerves of all kinds of sizes vessels. There is the small capillaries, the bigger arteries, veins. There is all around them. You're going to find the blood, this connective tissue. And the connective tissue is also the medium around which, or in which all these cells which are there present within the blood vessels are going to go out and play. So all the inflammatory reactions is going to be taking place, and connective tissue which you're going to find. So in between, if you have any questions and you can doubt, you can always ask in the question box. So the most obvious role of connective tissue is support as to the neighboring structures wherever it is present, and provide nutrition to the structures like the epithelium. As you can see in this picture, epithelium is getting nutrition from the underlying vessels through this connective tissue only. So, and then we have also the metabolic functions also responsible. This is also side which provides area for metabolic activities to happen, and the metabolites to be excreted here, and then they will be taken by the veins to the places, veins directly to the draining veins, and then will be finally to the inferior vena cava in the heart for the distribution in the body. So there are three components of connective tissue, which are the cells, fibers, and the ground substance. Cells, the fibers, and the ground substance are three basic components. So, and the cells, the fibers, and the ground substance together, that is what is called as a matrix. And then we have the cells. So, if you want to say two components, there will be cells and the matrix. And if you want to divide into three components, it becomes the cells, the fibers, and the background is the ground substance. So whenever we talk about any connective tissue, we have to talk about these three things: cells, fibers, and the ground substance. So we have cells and we have the intercellular fibers, and both the cells and the fibers are placed in a gel-like background, which is what is called as a ground substance. So we'll be talking in little detail about all these three components, how they appear under the microscope. So depending upon the composition of each of these three components, that is the ground substance, cells, and the fibers, principally the fibers, the arrangement of the fibers, the connective tissue is divided into certain types of connective tissues, or this connective tissue can be classified based on the organizational pattern of the connective tissue, principally based on the arrangement of the fibers. That is, we have the three principal types, or we can say broadly two types. One is a loose, other one is a dense, and the third one is a specialized type, which we call as bone, cartilage. Blood is again a specialized type of connective tissue. So those are depending upon. So broadly, on the basis of the fibers, we can call them a loose and dense, and then the arrangement of the cells. And then we have a specialized type of connective tissues also. And the dense ones, according to the arrangement, principally again, according to the arrangement of the fibers, it can be classified as the regular and irregular. So this is how broadly we classify the connective tissue. So whenever we see a connective tissue slide, we should be able to make out whether it's a loose connective tissue or a dense connective tissue. And if it is a dense connective tissue, whether it is a regular connective tissue or an irregular connective tissue. So that is how you should be able to classify each connective tissue whenever you see it under the microscope or whenever you have to describe a connective tissue. All right, so coming to the one of the components of the connective tissue, that is the fibers. So we will be talking about, like in this order. First we'll talk about fibers, then we'll talk about cells, and third, in the last, we'll talk about the ground substance. So the fibers, which we see in the connective tissue, of three varieties, depending upon the special features. And these three varieties are collagen fibers, reticular fibers, and the elastic fibers. So the collagen fibers, which we see, are arising from the source is the fibroblast cells, as you can see in this picture also, which are the flattened cells with the long processes, which you can see, and these are the ones which are secreting the collagen fibers. And these collagen fibers are they're very large in diameter. Large in diameter in the sense that they can range between 2 micrometers to 10 micrometers. So among the three fibers which we have, that is the elastic fibers, the reticular fibers, and the collagen fibers. Collagen fibers are the largest in diameter. It ranges from 2 micrometer to 10 micrometers. And they have this appearance. As you can see, they are not absolutely straight. They have this wavy appearance. So the wavy appearance, and they're not branched. You don't see any branching over happening. So they're unbranched. They are thick, and they're thick, unbranched. And in this slide, which you see right in front of you, this is a slide which has been stained in the double stain called as the hematoxylin and eosin stain. So in hematoxylin eosin stain, it will appear pinkish to you. The thick wavy fibers, unbranched, and they are pinkish in appearance. And this collagen fibers, which you find, see, this collagen fiber can be found as part of the component of the connective tissue. So you can find them in specialized connective tissue like a muscle, in between the various the cartilages. We can find these collagen fibers, and when they are heated up, they turn into gelatin. Prolonged heating, and this is what makes them softer, gelatin-like. And this is what is used in some cooking processes, especially people who are cooking non-vegetarian food. What they utilize this property of collagen fibers to make these sticky material sticky. Now this is how the collagen fibers are internally composed. Like in front of the extreme left, you see the collagen fiber bundles, and they are made up of smaller bundles which are called fibrils, collagen fibrils. And the collagen fibrils are made up of collagen fiber molecules, collagen molecules or collagen fiber molecules. And each of these collagen fiber molecule is made up of a triple helix, which we call as alpha chains. These alpha chains, so we have collagen fiber. Just before that we saw, let's go back to slide before. So these are the collagen fibers. These are the collagen fibers which are made up of collagen fibrils, made up of collagen fibrils, and each collagen fibril is made up of collagen molecules. And the collagen molecules are made up of triple helix of alpha chains. So these are the three alpha chains. And these alpha chains, which we call, all three are called alpha chains. These are the, as you can see, this is one chain which has been made, and you can see these amino acids, proline, glycine, hydroxyproline. So these are the polypeptide chain, each of these. The three, and they have this. You can see what is unique about this. Can you make out something unique about this polypeptide chain? What is unique about this polypeptide chain? Can somebody tell me? What is anything special you see in this polypeptide chain? Anyone? they are bent. So it is a helical, so there is a bend, of course. Yes, Tejasik is saying that it is a repetitive, very good. So it's showing repeats. So, so there's a repetitive sequences of 3 amino acids only here. Now you can see the 3 amino acids which are getting repetitive: hydroxyproline, glycine, and proline. So this is a repetitive sequences of the same amino acid sequences, and only three. So based on this, we have the 5 different types of collagen fibers, or maybe more also, but uh, whenever we have a different type of a different amino acid, it brings and becomes a different alpha chain. So a different amino acid here will make it a different alpha helix, alpha chain. So for each collagen fiber or each molecule of various types of collagen is made up of 3 identical alpha chains that are distinct for each collagen type. And you will find that there might be certain collagen fibers which have 2 different kinds of alpha chains. So in a collagen, like we have type 1 collagen, type 2 collagen, type 3, type 4, type 5. So these different type of collagen fibers which we have, each collagen fiber has a similar type of alpha chain. But in certain types of collagen, we have a different alpha chains, like 2 may be similar and 1 may be different. Like in case of collagen type 5, they have 2 different alpha, 2 different alpha chains apart from this. So they don't have hydroxyproline, glycine, and proline. That will be 1 alpha chain, other 2 are different. So that is how we can have a different different amino acid chain making. And also, if there is any mutation happening here, so these can cause problems in the formation of the alpha chains, right? So as you can see, these are the 3 principal amino acids: glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline. So we have glycine and proline principally. Sorry, this is, yeah, glycine and proline, and then we have the lysine. Lysine gets undergoes a post-translational modification to form the hydroxylysine. So this also requires, all this requires hydroxylation. So, and this hydroxylation for this alpha chains to form the molecule requires vitamin C. So therefore, this whenever there is a deficiency of vitamin C, what may happen? That leads to a condition which is called as scurvy. So in which, because of the lack of vitamin C, the hydroxylation of proline cannot happen or is inadequate. So therefore, it results in formation of a collagen which is not as strong as it should be. And therefore, it leads to conditions. The condition is called scurvy, and which is seen as bleeding in the skin, because its blood vessels which are there in the capillaries, they bleed, and they show as signs of, those are the hallmarks of scurvy. So bleeding under the skin, into the connective tissue. So teeth may loosen because of this, of the condition is called as scurvy, because of the improper formation of collagen fibers. So they have so this is how the various types of collagen fibers, based on the different types of alpha chains which we have, these are the different types of collagen fibers, and that is how they are distributed in various parts of the body. As you can see, type 1 collagen, we call type 1 collagen. It is principally distributed in the loose connective tissue, and the dense loose and the dense connective tissue, loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, dense regular connective tissue, and ligaments, bones, dentine. So this is where you find type 1. Type 2 is found in uh, the hyaline cartilages. The elastic cartilage also shows type 2 collagen, and the vitreous, which we see within the eyeball, is also having the type 2 collagen. Type 3 collagen is again found in the loose connective tissue as the reticular fibers. It is also seen in the papillary layer of the dermis, the bone marrow, lymphoid tissue. This is where all we find the type 3 collagen fibers, which are also called as the reticular fibers. The type 4 fibers, which we usually find in the basement membrane, the capsule of the lens, the bone marrow. And the type 4 is type 5, which we talked about before also, is found in the placenta, fetal membranes, and the basement membrane. And type 7 we usually find in the bone marrow. So this is about the collagen fibers. And then we come on to the other type, which is called as the reticular fibers. Or before that, just one quick point about the collagen fibers. See, as we talked about how the collagen formation happens. Similarly, whenever the collagen fibers are degraded or broken down in the in the extracellular space, and by enzymes called collagenases, and these collagenases are also secreted by the fibroblasts, the macrophages, and the neutrophils. So fibroblasts, macrophages, and neutrophils secrete collagenases, which digest the collagens. So this means, of course, they will have a proteolytic activity of the lysosomal elastases, which of the neutrophils and the macrophages. So, so whenever there is an increased collagenase activity, we're going to find more of collagen being degraded. All right, so then we come to the next kind of fibers, which are the the elastic fibers. Okay, which are the elastic fibers. Okay, let's first talk about the reticular fibers, then we'll talk about the elastic fibers. Now, the reticular fibers, as we talked about, are the more of type 3 collagen fibers. And as we discussed before, the collagen fibers are thick, ranging from about 2 micrometers to 10 micrometers. The collagen fibers, the reticular fibers are about, they are thin. The reticular fibers are thin, and they measure about 1 micrometer in diameter. So you can easily understand how thin these they are extremely even thinner. I mean, they range from 0.5 micrometer to 2 micrometer. So very thin fibers. The reticular fibers are thin fibers, and they range from 0.5 micrometers to 2 micrometers in diameter. So extreme thinness of their fibers, so they become extremely difficult to be visible in the low microscope or lower magnification. So this is a picture of a higher magnification, and we can make out these fibers, extremely thin fibers, and they, because of this, they're so thin, they're difficult to be stained by a normal hematoxylin and eosin. And because they have certain glycoproteins associated with them, so the special stains like what is called as a PAS stain, periodic acid shift stain, they are utilized to see the reticular fibers. So these reticular fibers, as we so far we have talked about, they are extremely thin, not easily identifiable under hematoxin and eosin, and they are coated with glycoprotein, and so they are merging with the background, which is made by the ground substance. And you find them provide intimate support to the capillaries, to the nerves fibers, to the muscle fibers, and you find a lot of them in the you must have heard about the reticuloendothelial system. So they are found there. The reticular means reticular. The word, if you go by the word reticulum, also reticulum means the network. So they form this thin network at different tissues of lymphoid origin, especially there is the bone marrow, the lymph nodes, spleen. So these are the places where you're going to find the reticular fibers. Right? Okay. So then we move on to the third type of fibers, which are the elastic fibers. Now, the elastic fibers which we have, let me quickly get back the elastic fiber slide. Okay. So, okay. Can you see this picture? Can you see this slide? Okay. All right. So Sumit is saying yes. So I believe all of you all can see also. So this is a picture, a microscopic picture, which shows to you the elastic fibers. So they come somewhere in between. If we talk about the diameter as a point of difference between collagen fibers and the reticular fibers, so they measure about 1 micrometer in diameter. They are said to be less wavy than the collagen fibers, but because in the slides you'll find a lot of waviness under the microscope after the processing of the cell which has happened, and they are branched. So collagen fibers were not branched, but these are branched, right? And hematoxin and eosin slide usually uh, give them a light pinkish appearance. However, this is a special state to show you the elastic fibers. So hematoxin eosin may not show you these darkly stained fibers as we are visible. So these are the elastic fibers which you can make out. So they are branched, they are And in unfixed part where you find them in the as white, they appear whitish and whitish to yellow. And where are you going to find the elastic fibers? Plenty of them. One will be the. Can you give me some example? We're going to find a lot of elastic fibers. Somebody, where you expect in a connective tissue, which of the connective tissue where you expect more of elastic fibers? Where? Elastic cartilage, okay. Ligaments, all right. Eustachian tube, okay. Where else? Good. Ligamentum flavum, well, good. Lungs is a very non-specific, so it will be very specific where to find more. Ear pinna, very good. All right. Epiglottis. Urinary tract, no, I don't know where. No. Okay. So they have the property, as the name suggests, elastic. They are elastic, so they have a property to recoil. So when there is a property to recoil, so which means they're branching also. So which gives a property of working as one big unit. When they branch, so they can work together. So so which means the idea is to make it contract wherever the contractility and stretchability is required, more to do with stretch rather than contract. So the blood vessels, are a very good example. So where you're going to find these elastic cartilage, elastic fibers more. So muscular arteries will also show, but elastic arteries have more of them. Very good. Right. So then we move on to the. So these are the three fibers which we have. That is collagen fibers, elastic fibers, and what? The reticular fibers. So then we come to the other third part, that is the. So that was about the fibers. Now we move on to the cells, right? Okay. Move on to the cells. So cells of the connective tissue are the fibroblasts, the chondroblasts, osteocytes, osteoblasts, and the myofibroblasts, adipocytes, the mesenchymal cells. So these cells, principally, see, these are the cells. When we talk about okay, so when we talk about the cells, see, these are all mesodermal in origin. So that is one thing which is common to this. So we talked about elastic fibers, collagen fibers, and the reticular fibers. So the collagen fibers which we talked about, okay, all right. So then we move on to the cells. Okay. So when we're talking about the cells, the first cell which we come across is the fibroblast. So fibroblast is the principal cell. Fibroblast. Okay, before we talk about fibroblast, okay, we've already seen the slide of fibroblast. We'll see how the fibroblast looks like. You can see this fibroblast. These are flattened cells, interspread between the bundle of collagen fibers. The thin cells, they're thin with elongated fibers, and they are going to secrete the ground substance as well as the collagen fibers. So they're ones which are going to be the source for the collagen fibers. But you can easily make out them thin. When you see the slide of any slide, especially the slide of tendon, you'll find these flattened nuclei, because that is where you find a lot of collagen fibers. So you'll see more of fibroblasts over there. But fibroblasts will be seen in all the connective tissue. So wherever you see a connective tissue slide, try to look for the fibroblast cells as these flattened nuclei. Okay. Then we have these cells which are the adipocytes. Now adipocytes, again, another predominant cell which you're going to find. in the connective tissue. So this picture shows you only of this picture shows you blood vessels. These are capillaries with flattened endothelial cells. So these are the endothelial cells resting on the basement membrane, and this is what adipocytes looks like, which is washed off appearance because of the fat has been washed off because of the processing which happens. So so adipocytes they usually arise from the pericapillary mesenchymal cells. So that is why you usually wherever we have blood vessels, I mean, you will find the adipocytes around the blood vessels. So wherever you look for adipocytes, the blood vessels will be nearby, especially the younger adipocytes. So they store adipose, that is a lipid. So they are lipid storing cells. So next is the slide of mesenchymal cells. Now the mesenchymal cells, or the mesenchyme, or which is also called as the embryonic cells, embryonic tissue. It exclusively arises from the mesoderm. So whatever you find, there are the cells which are widely placed. We'll show you this slide tomorrow. The cells are widely placed, and they're pale staining the stellate, the star-shaped cells. Okay, I just want to know one more thing from you before we overshoot time. Do you have any class after 6? Do you have any class after 6 also? No, sir. Okay. So I'll finish by, okay, 8 o'clock is the revision class of yesterday. All right, all right. So I'll need 15 minutes more, maybe maximum, 6:15 maximum, 6:10, 6:15. All right. So, so coming back to this mesenchymal cells, we are going to show you a slide of umbilical cord, and this is actually the slide of umbilical cord, but in a higher magnification. So what you find is that the pale staining stellate cells, which comprise of these, which comprise of embryonic tissue, embryonic connective tissue, and they're widely spaced pale staining stellate cells, and they are long processes which are interconnecting with the adjacent mesenchymal cells. So this is how the mesenchymal cells will appear to you. They are deeply stained cells. Well, this slide shows to you very deeply stained cells, but they're not as deep when you see the slide tomorrow. So this is what you're going to find in umbilical cord and in the developing bone. This is where you're going to find. These are the sites we're going to find the embryonic mesenchymal tissue. Then we talked about the endothelial tissue already, endothelial cells. Then we have these specialized cells, chondrocytes, osteocytes. I'm not getting into these cells. Lymphocytes. Coming to the mast cells, okay. The mast cells which are there. Now the mast cells, they are cells which secrete multiple things. So there are a list of things which they secrete. So very active cells, and the aggressive cells, active cells, as you can see. And in this picture, I don't know whether you can make out. So they have these mast cells. They're large cells. They have a large rounded oval nucleus, and for the large rounded, or you can say spherical ovoid nucleus. And they also, because of the activity which is there, so they have, as you can see, they're secreting so many things, so they will have a lot of granules, the secreted granules within them. So you can always try to connect the functions with the structure, because it is highly secretory, so you'll find a lot of secretory granules within this. So so all these, there's a green proteoglycan which is going to be contributing to the ground substance, the heparin, histamine, trypsin, tryptase. So all this are being secreted by the mast cells. In certain animals, these mast cells also secrete serotonin, but that is not the case in human beings. In human beings, the mast cells do not secrete serotonin, but it is the platelets which do the such things. Okay. So important thing which they do is that they are contributing to these enzymes and the ground substance also. Because all these are related with anaphylaxis. So you'll find the allergic reactions, that is what is called as a type 1 allergic reaction or the hypersensitivity reaction. You'll find active mast cell activity to be very active. So that is the time you're going to find the mast cells will show a lot of degranulation. So, and these cells will be released, these granules will release, and these cells will become actively secretory cells that we those times. So that is what you are going to find the mast cells as. Then we have the macrophages. The macrophages, which are there, as you can make out, macrophages are the cells which the phago have the important activity, which is the phagocytic activity, and you find them a lot of see whenever there's another name given to macrophages which is called histiocytes. Histiocytes is the other name which is given to the macrophages when they are in the loose connective tissue. So there are macrophages there which are there in the blood. So when they are there in the tissue, in the loose connective tissue, we call them histiocytes. And they are big, large cells, which is approximately sometimes maybe 10 to 12 micrometer in diameter. So as you can see in this picture, these are the macrophages, large cells. So round to oval nuclei, and sometimes they may also show you within the cell some phagocytosed material also, as you can see in this cell also. So nucleus is oval, round with deeply stained nucleus. And usually what we find that the nucleus is not very centrally located, sometimes to one of the side of the cell. There you find the not centrally located, it is off center. The nucleus is off center in case of macrophages. Because of its activity being more of phagocytic, so the endoplasmic reticulum is less. So which is why the nucleus, the cytoplasm is not as bluish as for other cells which are more active. So that is the macrophages. Then we talk about these plasma cells. Now the plasma cells are also found often in the loose connective tissue. These are the plasma cells, and they're again like plasma cells. They derive from the mesenchymal origin from the B lymphocytes. The triggered B lymphocytes secrete the plasma cells. They form the plasma cells. And the appearance is very peculiar, as you can see. They're very easy to identify. You can see this this very peculiar appearance. They have spherical to ovoid nucleus, and the nucleus is generally again it is also off center, not usually in the center. And we find these clumps of chromatin at the periphery. These clumps of chromatin at the periphery, which gives us a special appearance, which we call as a cartwheel appearance. And they show a very intense cytoplasmic basophilia. So that we'll be finding very basophilic, bluish in H&E stain, and these clumps of chromatin in the periphery in the cytoplasm, giving this special appearance. So they have abundance in the abundance of cytoplasm, abundance of ribosomes, which gives it that intense basophilic appearance to the cytoplasm because of intense activity which is happening there. So this is how the plasma cells appear to us. So lymphocyte you already know, various types of lymphocytes that we have. Okay, so these are the cells of the connective tissue. So cells of connective tissue which we talked about were the fibroblast, the adipocytes. Fibroblast we can quickly revise. Fibroblast, somebody tell me what fibroblast quickly. How will they appear, fibroblasts? How will the fibroblasts appear? Appearance of fibroblasts in a connective tissue? Flattened, right? Flattened. So they are the predominant cells which secrete fibers and the amorphous tissue, ground substance. And appearance is that they become flattened, interspersed between the fibers which are secreted by them only, right? Okay. Then we had we talked about the other cells, that is adipocytes, mesenchymal cells, monocytes, osteocytes. You will be discussing this in the specialized connective tissue. That's why I'm not spending much time on these. Mast cells, macrophages, plasma cells. Okay, then coming to the last component, that is the ground substance. Now, the ground substance which we have is the background or the in which is a gel-like thing. It's like almost like a gel, which is making up the ground substance. And this ground substance is the background or is the medium in which the your cells and the fibers are present. So this ground substance is principally made of one component, which are called as the mucopolysaccharides, which were earlier called mucopolysaccharides, and now they're called as the glycoaminoglycans. Glycoaminoglycans. So this is again an amorphous component, the predominant component of the connective tissue, and which gives the, so this is the component of the connective tissue which gives the density to a connective tissue. The density of the connective tissue is principally or entirely dependent on the ground substance consistency, because this is the component of the connective tissue which has the property to retain water. So a ground substance which does not have or can't retain, or which can't retain more of water, so that will make the connective tissue to be hard and rigid or brittle. While a connective tissue which has a ground substance where water retention is more, or it has a capacity to retain more water content, so that is where it will become more gel-like or semi-solid kind of a connective tissue. So so this the composition is that it is made up of mucopolysaccharides, we can say acid mucopolysaccharides. So the most predominant being this being what is called as a hyaluronic acid, a ground substance called hyaluronic acid, which has a uronic acid and N-acetyl glucosamine as a side chain. So this is the disaccharide side chain, which will be there with the uronic acid. So that makes it that is the hyaluronic acid. So hyaluronic acid is the principal glycosaminoglycan which forms a ground substance. So ground substance is formed by glycosaminoglycans, and one of the most common or predominant glycosaminoglycan is hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid. The spelling I hope all of you know, Hyaluronic, hyaluronic acid, which is the most predominant or most common principal glycosaminoglycan. And then there's something called as the sulfated glycosaminoglycans. The sulfated this one, that is the hyaluronic acid, is the non-sulfated glycosaminoglycans. The sulfated ones are these there's heparin sulfate, chondroitin sulfate, chondroitin 4 sulfate, chondroitin 6 sulfate, dermatan sulfate, keratin sulfate. So we have these, you can say the glycosamin are two types of varieties, the sulfated variety and non-sulfated variety. Sulfated varieties are these heparin sulfate, chondroitin sulfate. Chondroitin sulfate are also as 6, one at 6 and one at 4 and 6. Chondroitin 4 sulfate, chondroitin 6 sulfate. Then we have dermatan sulfate and keratin sulfate. So these are the types of glycosaminoglycans. Then there is something called as the proteoglycan. Now, what is a proteoglycan? See, in a way, you can say proteoglycan is a large or a complex glycosaminoglycan. So, so as we talked about, so this is one. It has one core protein, and to the core protein we have these glycosaminoglycans attached. So these are the glycosaminoglycans attached. So which makes it one big proteoglycan. And you can see so many proteoglycans attached to this one single protein. So, so here we have, see these are the keratin sulfate. So they are sulfated glycosaminoglycans. These ones. So this one is a hyaluronic. So we can have. So this is a proteoglycan. So, and these are the ways we talked about before as well. This is where the water retention can happen, because these are the hydrophilic areas which retain water. So, and also makes it bigger. So that is where the water retention can be increased or decreased. So we have a axial core protein, and we have the side chains of the glycosaminoglycans. Right. So this is what is makes up the proteoglycans, which are the large glycosaminoglycans. Now the thing about the glycosaminoglycan, or which is what is called as the ground substance, is that their organic component is pretty less, and because of organic component being less, they do not stain. They do not the hematoxin eosin. They do not pick up hematoxin eosin stain. So which is why it gives a uniform background to the picture, and it doesn't show much on hematoxin eosin, but only the pinkish background is provided by the ground substance because of less or very little amount of organic component. And this glycosaminoglycans is one where we find the tissue fluid and the lymph, because this is an extracellular area. And if you know about a condition called edema, you know what is edema? Can somebody tell me what is edema? What is edema? EDEMA. Okay, yes. So edema is the collection which can be pathological, which can be physiological also, both. When the tissue fluid, or which we call as exudate, is producing amount which is excess to which can be drained away by the lymphatic capillaries. So that causes accumulation of fluid in the connective tissue. So that is what is seen as edema. So edema is accumulation of fluid, excessive fluid, which could not be taken away, and that is accumulation of fluid, excessive fluid. See, as we talked about, the ground substance has the fluid as the content, one of the components. It retains water. So when this water becomes excess of what the ground substance can hold, that is where it leads to edema. So the ground substance will try to hold it for some time, but if it is more than that, what it can hold and what can be drained away by the connective tissue, by the lymph and the draining capillaries, then it will lead to what is called as edema. And edema can be of two varieties, which you have to find out what is the difference between the two. One is called pitting edema, one is called as a non-pitting edema. So this is one activity which I want you to all do and find out after your upper limb exam is over. Write down a short note on, find out what is the difference between the two. What is called as a pitting edema, P-I-T-T, what is called as a pitting and non-pitting edema, and role of connective tissue in this. Pitting and non-pitting edema. So what is the difference between the two? And let's try to find out the difference. So please find out on your own. And let's quick revision of what we've done. So about from the ground substance, then we had okay, so we have the fibers and the ground substance. This is a slide of a skin which you already seen, the epithelium. This is a slide of skin which shows you the stratified keratinized epithelium. Somewhere here would be the basement membrane. You can see the thick corneum, stratum corneum here. So we have this dermis below that. This dermis, this is the epidermis. So dermis has the two layers, papillary layer and the reticular layers. So this is where you find the connective tissue, the loose connective tissue and the dense irregular connective tissue, according to the arrangement of the fibers which are there in the this. Okay. So these are the elastic fibers. So this is the collagen fibers. Quick revision: they are thick, unbranched, pink, and appears wavy. And then we have these elastic fibers, which are thin as compared to collagen fibers. They're less wavy. In the real life, this is a postpartum, they appear more wavy. And they are branched, they are unfixed, they are pale yellow and maybe dark or deep pink on hematoxylation. The reticular fibers, which are thinner, they are fine, they are branched again. They have, as you see, according to their property, again, branching makes it the ideal candidate to be present in the lymphoid tissue. So that is where you find, and because they're so thin, they require special stains which are going to be coating these fibers. So they have to, the stain has to coat these fibers, like the one which is called as a silver stain, to see these, to be able to identify these reticular fibers. So it will be difficult to be seen in hematoxylin and eosin stain. So that is all for today, and see you tomorrow, and all the best for the exam. So today you're going to repeat, you'll have there will be a repeat of so today there will be a repeat of yesterday's class, and today's the connective tissue will be repeated tomorrow at the same time. So thank you, and if you have any questions, you can ask right now. Any questions? All right, so as I see no questions and it's already too late. Okay, I see one question coming up. Okay, so thank you, no questions. So thank you, and I'm closing this. All right, see you tomorrow. All the best for the exam. Thank you.